Hey, what's going on, everyone? It's your boy Akil, living here in Japan since 2008, and I'm here with another video about dating, about relationships, about Japanese girls. This time, we're going to be talking about marriage, specifically reasons why you shouldn't date a Japanese woman. These might be some red flags for you if you're not too familiar with the ins and outs of Japanese culture and how women kind of change here based on a lot of social norms and other things like that. It's going to be interesting. Let's get into it. So this time I'm going to be reviewing a video by All Asian Dilemmas. And for me, I'm pretty sure it's an AI generated faceless site, but just skimming through it, there are a few points that I think are useful and information that I want to expand on based on this video. So I'm going to get into it. Again, I don't really put stock in everything in this video, but there are a few points that I want to pull out and expand upon. And I think that'll be helpful for you based on my own experiences here. Of course, the original video will be in the description, so I encourage you to go ahead and check the full thing out yourself and use your own discernment. But for now, let's just get into it.
The cultures of a Japanese person and an American are extremely distinct. The way an American or foreigner views the world and how a Japanese person perceives it are quite contrasting. Although it is fascinating to experience these differences, it can be a significant challenge for some people to handle so many disparities. The Japanese culture, for example, is known for greatly valuing respect, harmony, and discipline. Meanwhile, American culture is often more informal and emotionally expressive, where people openly share their feelings and thoughts, living in a more relaxed manner. For a marriage between an American and a Japanese person to work, you, who are considering marrying a Japanese woman, need to be willing to deeply immerse yourself in her culture, perhaps even learning her language. Soon, we will discuss more about this. You really need to understand and accept her culture and personal values, which are likely very different from your own. It is crucial that you both accept and teach each other about your respective cultures. Only then can you find a way to live with your differences and have a truly functional marriage. However, for some people, this can be extremely challenging.
Yeah, cultural differences are going to be a really big thing that you're going to bump heads with. Again, I've talked about it in a previous video. My philosophy is that, especially if I'm in Japan, I'm basically on the away team here, and I'm not inside my culture, so I can't really push my cultural norms on my significant other, my spouse, my wife in this situation. I would encourage you guys to take that approach to it. I mean, not saying like you got to pretend to be someone else. Of course, you got into a relationship for a reason, and the person that you're in love with fell in love with you for that reason. So of course you got to be yourself. But what I'm saying is, in some ways, you have to make some concessions, whether you like it or not, for the relationship to continue for the long term. And again, I've been married for going on my 16th year of marriage. There's been lots of ups, lots of downs, but generally speaking, I'm fine with doing most things on my wife's, not, it sounds negative to say on her terms, but in her arena to make her feel comfortable. I'm totally fine being outside of my element and existing in a way that makes her more comfortable, even a lot of times if she doesn't know it. And that's not something that your spouse is probably going to recognize or really be appreciative of, except in some certain moments. What the AI bot said about Western people, especially Americans, being more expressive is really, really true. Again, I don't know whether or not this country has made me that way or I've always been that way. Again, I've been here too long to really remember the difference, but I do think that now, me in my 40s, I am more of a mental, psychological, in my head kind of person. Of course, I'm a sociable person. When I go out, I'm going out tomorrow night with my friends. I'm gonna have a great time and get get crazy. But in everyday life, I can flow with the ebbs and flows of Japanese culture, which a lot of times are not really overtly expressing how you're feeling and what you're thinking, your likes and dislikes and things like that. It's a lot more, keeping that into yourself and expressing it in non-verbal ways and other people picking up on those cues. If you have trouble doing that, you might have a little bit of difficulty with your Japanese spouse in the long run.
Coldness. Have you ever heard someone say that Japanese people are cold or emotionless? This is a misunderstanding of Japanese personality and culture. In fact, this perceived coldness says more about our own way of expression than about a real lack of affection. We, Americans, tend to be more open and expressive with our feelings. In Japanese culture, however, expressing emotions directly and intensely is not as common. This doesn't mean they don't have feelings. It's just that they don't show them in the same way we are used to. For example, casually saying, "I love you," whether to friends or family, is not typical in Japan. The closest phrase in Japanese, "aishiteru," carries a much deeper and more melancholic meaning, often used in farewell situations. This cultural difference can make relationships or friendships between Americans and Japanese challenging. Many of us value more open displays of affection and may find it difficult to interact with someone who shows their feelings more subtly. Additionally, Japanese people highly value the concept of wa, which means harmony. This leads them to avoid direct confrontations and to maintain a calm and composed facade in public, even when experiencing intense emotions. To us, this may seem like coldness, but to them, it's a way to maintain social balance. It's also important to note that Japanese people often express affection through actions rather than words. Taking care of someone's well-being, preparing their favorite meal, or paying attention to details of their daily life are common ways of showing love in Japan.
Aishiteru. Aishiteru is terrible AI pronunciation, but aishiteru, is said "I love you," but ski or daisuki, aishiteru, I think is the range. But in everyday conversation, people don't say aishiteru. It'll be ski or daisuki. Is one more common. And I do think so, especially talking about the nonverbal ways that people show their affection for one another. Is the bot is 100% on point with that one. You are going to show your appreciation or receive appreciation in ways that might be subtle or might not mean a damn thing to you. If it doesn't really matter for you, but someone putting out your clothes, or taking care if you got a little piece of lint on you, or making sure you look nice, or some small subtle things are just is a level of intimacy. Again, if you don't know, I recommend watching The Last Samurai, and in one, the love scene I think I talked about, where it's not even a real love scene, where Tom Cruise is putting on his armor or kimono or something. I forgot at this moment, but and his love interest in the movie is really taking care and slowly, making sure he looks properly in every detail. That's very representative of how love is expressed or affection is expressed here in Japan, and that's something, if you're not used to it or can't pick up on it, it might be difficult for you to really understand the warmth and the way that your significant other shows how she really cares about you.
Money. Another important aspect to consider when dealing with Japanese people is their attitude towards money. They are often seen as overly frugal, but this stems from a deeply rooted mindset of saving and planning for the future in Japanese culture. Japan has faced significant economic hardships, especially a few decades ago. This has instilled a strong focus on saving and financial planning. Additionally, retirement in Japan can be challenging and does not always guarantee a high quality of life. From a young age, Japanese individuals are taught to save and carefully plan their finances. The idea of being prepared for unforeseen circumstances and having a solid emergency fund is highly valued. This contrasts with the more consumer-driven culture seen in countries like the United States, where many people live paycheck to paycheck with less concern for financial future. This attitude towards money also reflects in Japanese business practices. Japanese companies are known for their long-term planning, often thinking decades ahead. This can seem overly cautious to us, accustomed to a faster-paced, short-term results-oriented business environment. Furthermore, the concept of matanai, which roughly translates to "what a waste," is deeply ingrained in Japanese culture. This leads to an aversion to waste in all forms, including money wastage. It is common to see Japanese people reusing, repairing, and maximizing the use of their belongings instead of simply buying new ones.
Matanai, another interesting, motainai, and it means like a waste. And yes, the AI bot is kind of true on a lot of points there, especially related to concepts of money and saving money. The more not necessarily frugal nature, but I say Spartan nature of Japanese society. Again, Japanese historically, it's not only modern times. Historically, Japanese people are farmers basically who live, um, I'd say, a Spartan kind of lifestyle, and from most people come from those roots. Now, in extravagance is not something that is really shined upon, especially it is maybe looked down upon because is showing you're kind of as a higher status of other people. And traditionally, that was something that really wasn't seen positively. Being one of the many is more of on the surface. It gets kind of complicated, especially in modern times. But generally speaking, that's kind of how people like to think they should live. Let me say it that way. But planning for the future, long-term planning, again, I've talked about it before. um, Making sure you have enough rice to last you for the winter, or for the long term, instead of going for the big game hunt, or going for big fireworks, is kind of things that are here. And so your partner might look for you to have that stable foundation of income and plan for life with a bare minimum standard, and need you or want you or require you to keep that standard. So money, long-term planning, saving, um, mixed with expectations of modern society, can be a bit of an issue, depending on the relationship, depending on your spouse, depending on a lot of different factors. But those talks before marriage and after marriage, it really depends on the person. I've heard it working out extremely well. They knew what they were getting into beforehand. I've heard stories of the spouse completely switching up and just coming out of nowhere with a whole bunch of BS. So it really depends on the person. But I do, if you are getting serious with a person, I do recommend that you have serious conversations about money before you get married, and not just assume that, you paying for dinners and stuff like that, and y'all just automatically go 50-50. Is something that will be expected after you get married. You could be in for a rude awakening.
Excessive work. One aspect that can be shocking to us Americans is the Japanese work ethic. In Japan, work often comes before family, which can be difficult to understand for those who value work-life balance. Dedication to work is seen as a virtue and, in some cases, even a social obligation. It is common to see people working long hours, far beyond the normal workday. This commitment to work is deeply rooted in Japanese culture. This can significantly impact family life and personal commitments, something many of us consider essential for a healthy and balanced life.
Yeah, work is gonna be something, gonna be your third spouse. If you, especially, if you got it like that, and your significant other is a stay-at-home wife, great. But in modern times, for the most of us, like, we're both working. In that situation, work is gonna take precedent of a lot of things, and you're gonna have to learn. I've talked about it as well before, when the timing is to be in relationship mode and when let her be in work mode, and how to switch back and forth between those two. It kind of can go into the coldness category as well. If you're not really used to that, you're used to being all huggy, kissy, play when you're not working, but she might have other stuff to do. She might have other stuff she's thinking about, and she might be completely like shut off to you on the weekdays, and then Saturday it might be like switch time. Okay, let's go, let's be lovey-dovey. And you got to just be used to that, and know when to back off and when to go in, and go in if you want to go in. But just be aware of that, and it is a really important factor and a really big cultural difference that could um, spell disaster for your marriage if you're not prepared for it. So there's a lot more to this video, but I'm just going to leave it here. AI Bot has a lot more stuff to say. I have a lot more information about relationships. Of course, let me know with a comment, and check this out if you want to, and I'll holler at you next time.